All right. So we are online, just testing my sound, making sure. There we go. Not able to hear my voice. Making sure. Okay, there you go. There we go. All right, I'm just gonna invite my community people just in case you are watching me online. Just give me a thumbs up and also let me know if I'm audible, visible. So that'll be great. So there we go. Let me check if somebody is online waiting to jump in. I do see your comments later when I finish the episode, but just in case you, I'll open up the chat here. Make sure that you're chatting over there and awesome. Super. All right, so we are online officially. This is episode number 62, and we are talking about how to make use of the power of adaptability. And when it comes to adaptability, um, there are different angles towards adaptability. You may be a career mom, or you could be a full-time mom, or you may be in a leadership role, juggling with a lot of other things. So everything is typically a full-time job. Okay. So this is a entire series called Unlocking Emotional Intelligence Using Brain Skills. Initially, I dedicated this to busy moms. However, I felt emotional intelligence is a need for everybody. It's a need of the heart, and irrespective of any age, any gender, any culture, any walks of life, everybody needs this. So I thought I'll prepare this series and extend this as a free resource for everybody who can watch, starting from a student, a professional, a graduate, or a career progressive person, or a business entrepreneur, or a high stake leader, role. So people from different walks of life can watch this, and I am able to see a lot of people are watching this, and they are learning a lot. But there is, this is a series dedicated to brain skill development. Okay, we are driving to develop emotional intelligence, but through your brain, which will be easy to for you to relate and relevant. It will be relevant for you to understand the examples and all that. However, the typical world definition of emotional intelligence and the different models that we are into, it could take a little longer learning curve. But when you are listening to this 100 episodes, it's like a shortcut for you to get into it's more of an EQ in action. Okay. And that is why I specifically picked up brain skills as a theme. So it'll be easy for you to understand and start applying it, especially when we are talking about our own brain skills. Somebody could be logically driven or creatively driven, and somebody could be having the ability of taking the blend of both logic and creative, emotional aspect to it. So in essence, if you can tap that strength in you, tap that power in you, uh, because when I discuss pros and cons, importance, applicability, brain hacks, a case study, somewhere you will get a aha moment saying maybe you can assess yourself as to, you can understand whether you could be in the logical, brain, or it could be an emotional brain which is dominant in you. However, you can also understand the missing element in it and improve the same. Plus, on top of it, by now, at the end of the episode, I also gave an access to a particular tool called EQ Quiz Bundles, where you can have a self-assessment done. So this is an additional gift, a resource for you to make sure, confirm your learnings and start applying as well. Okay, on that note, today we will see what we have got for adaptability as a skill. Okay, and when we speak about adaptability at its core, we started off talking about in general as an adaptability as a skill. And then yesterday we dealt with adaptability needed for you to strengthen your relationship at family. So in family, when it comes to a family as a unit, what kind of family members are there, dynamics are there, and what are the domains inside family? It could be financial planning, it could be parenting, it could be blended families, understanding the cultures and expectations. How can you develop? First of all, what are the areas that you can fill in? You need to be able to assess that, right? Only then you will be willing to change, provided you get that enough validation, and then you're willing to change, right? And for you to change also, what is the expectations? Like, how do you accept certain things, and how does your brain approaches? So if you can understand that bit and do not resist what you're already good at, you're going to leverage the strength to fill in the gaps, right? That way you're not resisting your natural brain style. Of course, at the end of the episode, I offer a ticket to workshops for women exclusively to know your own unique brain styles. In that way, you can be very clear about who you are as a person, and how can you adapt your communication style according to the other people's brain style. Because see, not everybody can take a brain style report on them, but if you can understand your brain style, you will know the power of adaptability in your communication, in your relationship, or in your approach at work or in personal life. So that way you are on advantageous side. Okay. So as usual, we're going to be watching this series in certain way. As usual, we'll begin with definition, and then the brain EQ brain definition, and the pros and cons. Then we will also see the applicability of it. We are in this episode, we are talking about balancing and growth, how to adapt in career and family life successfully together both. Because you need to understand that when we are trying to thrive, okay, life is a constant balancing act by itself, either between career or home or business and family demands. It's a constant juggle, okay? But with adaptability, you can actually navigate it like a pro and thrive in whichever role you play. It's just not for survival. You thrive. You are being there. It's just not doing for the sake of it. So there's a key difference, right, between survival and thriving. So for you to thrive, these skill set will help you become aware, apply it efficiently, so that you will become uh, good at it, and then you will get fulfilled, so that you can align your energy spending or your time, your efforts, everything to a purposeful living. Okay, so that is how we're going to use this adaptability to change. And it's just not a skill by itself, it is the foundation. So remember, all these episodes will definitely teach you a skill set. And I will also tell you how not overdo on it. But you should understand that fact that emotional intelligence has become overpowering. It's need of the heart of the, it's most demanded 21st century skills, because we have lost the human connection. And it is important to have that, always thriving in us. Okay. Although AI is disrupting the entire industries, and it is even more progressive, you may wonder that you don't have to even wonder in a matter of time that you will find robots walking in your home. Because we understood that US is very progressive in terms of experimenting a lot of things. So we might have, just like how we had Alexa and all that, cities taking over all our the chores needs. It is in no matter time that you will find robots actually walking in, and they do have their own advantages. Okay, we have watched certain movies, documentary films, which had explained the positives of it and the negatives of it. So it is important to embrace the technology in a way it's going to leverage our thriving, as well as not to lose the human connection, never. Because that's the foundation. We are all human beings and we emote, and we need to understand what we are, feeling inside, and what are the feelings from other people around us. Okay. On that note, we're going to be learning a couple of things this time. Okay. In this episode, we're going to see how to use practical strategies to balance the career and home responsibilities through the power of adaptability. Okay. and then how to create that flexible routines and manage unexpected changes with confidence. Now, there are strategies and brain hacks can be discussed, but in the previous episodes, if you haven't watched it till yet, we have discussed about a lot of skill set in a different angles. That is why when I pick up a skills, when I pick up one skill, I go deep dive into understanding different angles. Also, inside a particular episode, I dive into bringing out a lot of strategies and examples. That way, at least here and there, if you can get one strategy and apply it to your life to see whether it's working or not, that's a win for me. So I would highly recommend you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, what you're watching, so that you will get notified with the future lives and future videos. And I'm also doing the same thing, same topics on a podcast in a very shorter version and point shooter things that you can on the fly, on the go, you can listen to it. So subscribe to my Spotify. All the links will be given in the description. So stay till the end. I will also give you some rewards and resources for you to make sure that you whatever you're learning here can be applied. All right. So we'll see what is the definition about how you are going to pursue adaptability. Just a second, guys. I'm just checking, making sure my Zoom is working really well. Somewhere it is. Yes. Okay. All right, guys. Okay. So the general definition is all about left brain. We yesterday and day before yesterday, we spoke about flexibility, the thriving skill, adaptability. We opened up this episode Introduction to Adaptability, where we have discussed about general definition. We're going to understand adaptability through your brain approach, especially for balancing your family and career. So, using the structured problem solving techniques to stay organized and effective in responding to changes. This is how your logical brain is allowing. Imagine you don't have a structure, you don't have a framework, you're going to be working in wild. How will you be? Will you be, finding to take a breath, or will you be feeling calm? Right? So sometimes that adventure is needed. Sometimes that crazy part of us is needed, but not always. Otherwise, it leads to exhaustion. So there has to be a structure, there has to be a shape. That is where your logical brain is actually kicking in. Then the right brain approach says you're going to tap into emotional awareness and creativity to manage that personal and professional transitions with ease. Right? So, why emotional awareness is because the other part of your brain, that's your right brain, is actually trying to give you some data, especially when you're dealing with people. The left brain will be more efficient and helpful during the process, okay, efficiency. But for you to deal with people, even when you don't have people, you're an individual contributor in your office, right, in your work. Even at home, you're single and you don't have much people to manage. You are still managing your own emotions. So that is the essential foundation part of emotional intelligence. Whether you are involved, you are in the midst of people around you, or you're all alone, you're still dealing with emotions, and you need to be aware of your emotions. You need to be aware of the impact that it gives you based on your responses, and how do you regulate it and how do you align it is very, very important. And it's the same thing that you're going to be doing with others. Okay, on that note, when you're trying to adapt, when you're trying to learn to be flexible, to be adaptable, you need to know the emotional impact or understanding of it. You need to be aware of it. What is happening? How are you feeling when you do that? And how do you, feel that fulfillment? Do you even are you even energized when you do that? Right? Those are the questions that you need to be asking before you jump into say an yes to something. Okay, that's why it's beautiful blend of both. Logical structure should also be there, shape also, framework, it needs to be there. Okay, just cannot, even if you're working trying to innovate something. We covered 4 5 good episodes on creativity skills and problem solving. If you see there is always a blend of both. In every episode for every skill, there has to be a blend of both logical and emotional brain. Even when you're working on unknown zone, creative something, creating something, you need to be working under a particular framework. At least you should be able to create multiple choices for you to decide, right? So that's where the left brain will also kick in. Let's see more. What are the benefits of adaptability? In this case, when you want to balance the growth in the family and career, what is needed and how is it benefited for you? If you have the enhanced I mean, the adaptability skill, it is going to enhance your productivity. Okay. You're going to remain productive even when circumstances changes unexpectedly. Personally, it could be many things that life can take over. Um, Career wise, of course, you have your own deadlines, and situations can be predictable. Sometimes it could not be, maybe because other emergencies can make you dysregulate about it. But it is important to have that to remind that productive even when the circumstances take over. Okay. How can one be proactive? So proactivity, we did episodes on good episodes on proactivity as well. If you see there, we must have spoken about adaptability. Now what we are speaking is, for you to get adaptable, you need to be also proactive in order to predict, forecast, and be ready. That is how you can enhance your productivity. You see, every episode is actually interconnected. And then for balancing life, manage work-life balance effectively through flexibility. Okay, you will be able to manage provided you let go, give in, and adjust certain times. But you shouldn't overdo on it. Okay, that's the next part I will be covering. So, but the advantage is, if you can be flexible, you can get a lot of things done. And then it improves your mental health. Okay, reduces stress by coping with shifting demands at work and home, and career progression, gaining better job opportunities and promotions through valued adaptability skills. You will be differentiated. You will have a differentiated value because you have these skills. And these are all intangible ones that you cannot see through. The logical ones can still be tangible for somebody to see the outcomes of it. But the intangible one are the driving forces. I always say, imagine an iceberg. Okay, underneath the iceberg is where the core emotions are there. Those skills are there. So typically, when we deal with brain skills, it is evident that we have two hemispheres of brain, which activates the right brain and the left brain, logical and the creative thinking. But the skills that you need to operate the right brain or the left brain, or something which could be intangible. Some are tangible on the surface level, but we just cannot judge a book by its cover. So we need to be able to find the root cause and the core emotions behind that, for which these components, emotional brain components, will work to help you do that and improve the mental health. And I don't have to, say about it, because we are in mental health pandemic. God knows how many more pandemics are lined up. But if you see, other than the things which are not in your control. See, for example, pandemic happened during the coronavirus, due to coronavirus. So that's not in our control, right? But it did teach us adaptability, right? Nature did teach us. So whether it is pandemic or not, otherwise also nature teaches us how to adapt seasons, cycles of day and night, and revolutions, catastrophic events. So everything, teaches us. But the pandemic was even more evident because, entire um, worldwide, there was a shutdown and a lot of losses. Industries which adapt quickly, they were able to flourish. In fact, they invented a lot of things. They took each and every obstacle as an opportunity. Things, but industries or people who couldn't adapt, they are already lost in the game, and they still cannot decipher the fact that they can, because the world is no more the same how it was pre-pandemic. Everything has become hybrid now. So if you're a business entrepreneur, it is essential to grab the hybrid model so that you take care of the digital presence and the physical presence. And if you're a career person, you need to be able to understand the AI disruptions happening and equip and upgrade yourself to be able to thrive in the future. And when you are at a stay-at-home mom, you need to be able to adapt. In fact, for your kids' academic excellence, what's the future and all that, you should be proactive, be resourceful to understand where is the way forward, and be good, really be upgrading yourself. First of all, adaptability, and also technically, how you equip yourself with a lot of gadgets, and be aware of, those areas so that you will be able to support your children's future. Now, on that zone, mental health is true, and we are in the pandemic, and it's going to be even more lined up. God knows what it is. But if you are equipped, if you're ready to adapt now, you will, because adaptability quotient is even more key right? Even more evident that you need to be raising that in your life. And it is a subset of emotional intelligence, right? Because we are talking about adaptability skill in the spread of emotional intelligence. It is a subset and it is interconnected. Only with adaptability, you're not going to go far. And in the very next slide, you will see just because the person is adaptable and flexible, what are all the consequences that he or she meets? Okay. So you need to have a combination of these skills. That is why emotional intelligence. So that the series will tell you exactly how it is all interconnected and how you can equip yourself in this one particular series itself. Then comes career progression. I just spoke, gain better job opportunities and promotions through valued adaptability skills. The challenges of adaptability in case you're overdoing on it. Okay, this is exactly where I said you will have consequences if you are thinking that you have your strength in adaptability and you think this is the only strength which can take you somewhere. That's wrong perception, because you need a combination of other skills working for you, and you also have to tame down your strength so that you don't overdo on your strength itself, because when you overdo, consequences are many. Simply, risk of overwhelming is sure shot there, especially when you're juggling with career and family. As a woman, already we have so many roles to play really well, and we need to take care of ourselves and our well-being also, so that we are there for our family and also be successful outside. So in that effort, you just cannot overdo on adaptability. Okay, you need to find that balance, and that is why brain skills. Always remember, right brain, this is my right side and left side. So don't go over extreme to your right side, neither to your left side. You always have to maintain the midbrain, so that whenever you want to take the logical brain, when you're here, it is easier to adapt. Whenever you want the emotional data, when you're here in the logical, data framework, it is easy for you to lean on it. Because if you're too far away, either side of it, it's very difficult for you to rewire and work on it. You will miss opportunities, you will miss time and effort and a lot of things. So in this note, when you overdo on adaptability, you're risking your overwhelming status. And next is exhaustion, and then is burnout. And it very quickly happens. But for you to bounce back, it takes a lot of time. So burnout is not a fun state. Okay. Constant adaptation can lead you to burnout if not managed properly. Then comes loss of focus. Frequent changes may cause distractions. Reducing focus on long-term goals is very, very important. Okay. Meaning, mm, I'm sorry, the other way around is reducing focus on long-term gains, but in the sense you're losing the short-term, what do you call, celebrations or the benefit. You should be able to have the balance. Okay. Frequent changes may cause distractions and reduces the focus on long-term goals. In essence, that if you are working for short-term pain in order to achieve the long-term gain, it is very important that while you're correct in your path, too many distractions should not happen, because that will derail your focus. When your intentions is correct, when your efforts are going to be correct, then it is important that you don't derail your efforts and focus with the distractions. Distractions could be starting with gadgets. It could be negative environment, people, events, right? You don't have to be in all the parties. So there's another episode that I did exclusively talking about this. So in essence, distractions could be endless. There's a series that I did in my same YouTube channel called Productivity Series. You will find an episode called Distractions, and how can you stop those endless distractions and become productive. So, on that note, it is important so that you don't take in everything, whatever comes in your way, and then dilute your focus on for your long-term vision. Then lack of stability also. Too much flexibility might prevent the establishment of consistent routines as well. Now, see, you fix a routine because, for example, this 100-day lives, okay? Sometimes life takes over. Sometimes I could not be well. 100 days, okay? 100 days coming live, it's an effort by itself. It was overwhelming before when I started. It was seemed to be like a elephant. I had to break down the complexity because I used my brain skills, right? Whatever here I'm talking is maximum is from my life, examples, the personal experiences, and other things I do a case study and then bring about based on my friends' experiences, my community experiences, women who are dealing with, and my own, understanding of world outside, plus research-backed evidences, which is very, very important. Because although the series could be theory, but when you come to my workshop, it is all AI-driven, report-driven, concrete data. That is why awareness is, will be done in, this kind of series. But when you come to my workshop and my community, it is all action-based, right? So what happens here is when you say yes to everything, you become very favorite person to everybody. Okay. Little did you will not realize that they are draining you actually. You will understand only when the stage of draining happens, typically physically. So I'd been through that because of various situations, not understanding that I've been there everywhere, which is not needed. And I had to really make some good amount of awareness, but I had to succumb. Life has to teach me hard lessons. And then I realized, but for me to even realize, it took me a lot of time because of those adversities. But thankfully, I had these skills of working on myself, self-awareness, self-management, and directing myself really well. So emotional intelligence, it's more of a life skill, which will come like a constant companion for you if only you're able to put that in action. So too many yeses in your day can also derail your focus. You need to set your boundaries and make sure that whatever you commit, you fulfill, and then that has to align to your goals. Rest of it, if it is not aligning, it could be people, it could be process. Uh, if it is not aligning to if it is not serving your goals, then you should have the courage to say no. You, especially as a woman, we should learn how to say no. As much as we are expected to say yes on a, humanitarian level, but there has to be a boundaries, right? For which you need to be able to say no. Okay. Then what is the importance of adaptability? If you don't have this, what happens is you're going to struggle to maintain that work home balance, leading to stress and decreased performance. But if you have it, you're going to handle changes with resilience, keeping personal and professional lives balanced and productive. You will see even the case study that we will be discussing, or in your own environment, you can find people who are very productive. If you go and ask them the secret sauce, first, in their list could be prioritization, right? Then comes avoidance of, or distractions. So deletions of distractions. So there are three ways. There's always this formula that I fall in love with. I learned it from my mentor, where you know it's so relevant for me because I'm in a Western world that everything is so dependent on us, and outsourcing could be very, very expensive. So we have to do everything all by ourselves. But even in that, you can actually find yourself productive, because that is where I did the productivity series at all, where I realized that there are transactions that you can outsource that will be the best. If not, delegate. And whom we can delegate is maybe the family members who are existing, or you can even hire somebody and delegate it. Okay. If not for outsourcing, at least you can delegate it to your known friends and other people around you. If it is not possible, the best thing is to delete it. Okay, in fact, you can even automate it. I eh, f- for my life, I make sure that business and me, my life are not, different. They're going to be same. How I am, if I'm tired, it will definitely reflect on my business. Okay. If I am not happy, it is definitely going to reflect on my business. So I need to be taking care of everything. So I decided to automate my life and my business. So on that note, there are a lot of things, a lot of transactions in kitchen or home chores I could automate. So that could leave me some space and time for me to buckle up. Even then, there could be a lot of things that we cannot automate, we cannot outsource, we cannot delegate. I just have to delete, provided I have time and energy. Okay. If I don't find it, then it's best to delete it. Okay. Because those are not serving my goals, has to be deleted. We can always go back. We're not going to burn the bridges, but that is important for you to conserve your energy and time and resources, right? Statistically also, 80% of employees believe adaptability is crucial for success in today's workplace. Not just with employees, even with, family, because family is a unit of different people, sizes, likes, dislikes. different dynamics, especially when you're dealing with the two different families, blended families. It is important to, back home in our culture, most of them used to live in joint family. The dynamics will be even more difficult and evolving. Parenting itself is one big game, and then handling other people centered around elderly people. Uh, you being a career executive is one full-time job. You being a parent is another full-time job. You being a daughter-in-law from our culture, that is another roles and responsibility that we have to naturally be um, thrusted on us. So how do we, handle all these full-time jobs, as much as we want to manage ourselves? So it is important, and it is needed, much more needed for a woman. And that is why I dedicated this entire series for it. But you need to understand, not only it is expected in family, it is also expected in work. You may not be, taking care of this many dynamic things every time, because some things will be structured for sure at office, right? There are policies, regulations, there are framework to be working under with. There will be a monitoring system, right? At family, you may be monitored it's not by process, by people, it has its own consequences. But if you're a business person working from home, that's a different ball game. Accountability could be very, very different from who we are as a solo entrepreneur. Especially working online, that could be even more trickier. Okay. So digital entrepreneurship versus the location based physical store entrepreneurship, it could be different, right? And then the corporate life could be very different. So we need to be aware of all these and apply the adaptability accordingly. Okay. Who needs this? I just spoke to you. I told you, working professional, parents who needs to adjust, solving family dynamics and responsibilities, working professional balancing career and family life demands, entrepreneurs feeling changes in business growth, and market trends, necessarily adaptability is important. And let's talk about where are we actually going to apply it. Now, when we are speaking about career and family growth, let's see where are the actual applicability can happen. So first is career transitions. Okay. So when you want to jump from one career to another, it could be from industry to industry, or upgrading, or roles, transitioning from one role to another. First of all, you need to be able to identify that new skill, what is needed for that particular role. Assessing that skills needed for that role or an industry is very, very important. That is where your logical brain will come into place. And then you're going to adjust the work style accordingly. You may be working as an individual contributor. When you get promoted, you might have to handle people. So there's a whole different game. Okay. So far, you on your process, right? Now, along with the process, you need people dynamics also. So you need to be able to adapt. And then you're going to seek feedback. Okay. It's going to be a new one, right? So how do you grow? I mean, you just cannot understand that everything by yourself, and you just cannot think that everything is going smooth unless and until there is a feedback mechanism given to you, so that you can adapt and grow. And especially when there is a feedback given, the first expectation from the person who's receiving it is adaptability skill. So if you're just going to throw it away saying, um, if you're not a person who can receive feedback, of course, I'm talking about constructive feedback, okay? Then it's going to be a trouble. So that is where adaptability has to work really well. So this is what happens when you are, transitioning, okay? Even when you're trying to identify new skills, how is it related to adaptability? No. First of all, the question is, do you even need the adaptability there? So that is what you need to understand. If you don't need, then why struggle? Right? Maybe that's actually working for you. Then why even change? So that's the first step. And then if you find the need, you're going to adjust accordingly. Without adjustment, without some compromise, things will not be benefited, neither for you, for people around you. So you need to understand that and accept that. Okay. With that acceptance, emotional acceptance is also needed. Whereas logical acceptance is needed for you to anyway, get validation. And then more importantly, seeking feedback. Okay, adaptability at career is equals to seeking feedback. Okay, when you are a person who can take feedback, constructive feedback, that means adaptability is already working in you. You can, that's the biggest elephant anybody can face it, right? Then comes adaptability in family life. Okay, so what happens? When can you actually adapt? When do you need to adapt? When there is a changing roles. How adjust to any family dynamic, new family dynamics as child children grow or circumstances changes. See, for example, as a woman, as a traditional woman, the first biggest, in fact, I would say adaptability was the first ever skill set that I even, it was very tangible and off my directly on my face when I was supposed to get married, and it was a properly arranged marriage. And then when I'm supposed to go to another family, is when by nature, naturally we are all tuned, right? That's how we are all brought up, right? That we need to adapt to a new family. So far, it could be 20, 25 years in a particular family, different lifestyle, particular, way of living, stubbornness, and all that patterns has to be one day broken off. You know, how hard it is, and how, I mean, on the other side, how beautiful it is to see that women tuning herself. It is a, it takes effort, it takes courage, it takes immense acceptance. Okay. Without acceptance, it comes with only resistance. There's no adaptability. So you see how beautifully our culture tune in us, right? But it has its own disadvantages as well when there is no boundaries set, right? If it is too much of flexibility, then you're actually over riding your own boundaries, and you're letting everything happening granted for you, and then you will hit the exhaustion very, very soon. That is why very, very important that traditionally the women will have a midlife crisis only because they don't have they're not able to say no for certain things. But if you're constantly saying no, you're actually not building life. Life will not happen, right? So you need to have that balance there also. All right. So changing roles. Okay. Similarly, when a woman becomes a mother, a young mother, definitely biologically, emotionally, physically, mentally, we go through a lot of changes, and we accept the new role, right? Only then we become full-fledged in that particular role. And we do it, happily and accept it, right? So willingly we are doing it. That is one way. And then it could be many other roles that we can get, give as an example for a woman, especially when you want to go step into a career, maybe because you're doing it for, financial growth for your family, financial stability. But again, there has to be an acceptance because you've got to compromise a lot of things, and you got to buckle up in a lot of other ways, spend more time, effort, energy in a lot of other ways. So that acceptance has to kick in. And that is how adaptability works as a whole. Okay. There has to be awareness, acceptance, both logical and emotional, and adjusting applicability is also needed. Without adjusting, without letting go, it's going to be full of resistance for you. Okay. Then having flexible routines. Now that you are accepting the roles and you're applying it, you're already, looking in the role, okay, changing roles. What you're going to do is you're also going to have a flexible routines. Okay. Create that adaptable schedules to accommodate shifting family needs. You need to be using your creative brain as well. So even though there is a framework given, we can always work it out, right? How? We're going to use our brain. We're going to use our talent, open communication. You're going to have a dialogue with your family members to address that evolving needs and challenges. It is always, always better to have an open dialogue. If you're living as a nuclear family, it's even more easier. But then getting a consensus or even having that practice of having an open dialogue is very, very important. And if you're living with a bigger family, it is even more important and it becomes sensitive. But it is best to put that value systems in place. Okay. Then accordingly, you can have a flexible, routines by taking in support from others. So always reach out, always call out, ask for help, learn to say no or ask for help. If you're not a person who can say no, at least ask for help. Okay. That way you can bring in that activity very easily. Now, time management could be a problem for a lot of women. Okay, juggling roles. So how do they do it? Just three steps. Okay, first is important is always remember prioritization. Now, how do I prioritize? Based on the situation. Okay, 2 years before it could be a different story, or even 1 year before it could be a different story. That is why it is important to revisit on your goals, and it is important to have a goal. In fact, right? Without goal, you just go haywire. You just accept everything comes on your way, and then you get spilled out everywhere. You're spreading out everywhere. Obviously, it is a sign for burnout very quickly in no time. So it is important to have a goal so that you come under one framework. And while you're working on that direction, there may be some distractions and spill out. That is where you're going to prioritize. But before even having this goal set, or you don't even know what you want to do, what are you going to even prioritize? Right? So it is important to have that direction, and goals will give you that direction. While you're working on that note, you're going to prioritize based on your value system. Okay. So values could be, what are your roles? It's based on that. If you're a career woman, as well as taking care of your, family members, you have children, then accordingly your values will come. If you're a singular person, your value will be, more of your independence. And, if you're a businesswoman, it's more of your business priorities and your family need. It could be totally different. Accordingly, you fix your values. Then based on which you're prioritizing your task. Then you're going to break that task using time blocks. In the previous episodes, we've spoken enough good amount of strategies as to how to break that complexity in your mind to deal with any problems. So one of the best hack is to use time blocks, but before which you must have done a lot of steps. Okay. So for example, during this 100-day lives, what seemed to be a bigger one, it was overwhelming before when I started. Then I could break down the complexity. That is content creation, um, and then scheduling, and then looking at the long-term benefits, and what are the flexible uh, options that I have. So I put through it, and it only took me 2 days, 2 full days to sit and create something, and then the rest of the things is only delivering it every day. Even then, life takes over. I had taken a break, but then how do I bounce back? Because I have certain things set, okay, and I have concretized my effort in it. So I use time blocks. So for example, I already scheduled in the Zoom that between this particular time to this particular time is where I have to sit and do this work. So I tell my family, I prepare myself, and all the other schedules will be accordingly scheduled because I have this schedule for going live. Okay. So that's how I used a time block. And then I'm also flexible. Okay. Sometimes life takes over. I told you, it could be any kind of an incident. See, for example, right now, in the next few days, it's going to be dark, right? So I need to prepare the logistics and making sure the room is warm enough, and then I can, take care of the connectivity and all that, right? So I need to be flexible. I just cannot be stubborn saying, I'll only do in the daylight, or, you know, when there is an appointment coming, I cannot skip my appointments. So accordingly, I'll have to be flexible. Okay. On my way out, I can figure out any path, right? But it is important to have that acceptance that, or as well as plan it before forecasting, predict, you will know by now certain things. You will exactly know with your experiences. If you're a parent, if you're a career person, if you're a business, you will know exactly how to predict what is going to come. And you can anticipate that. But emergencies are always contingencies, are always contingency. But barring that, you're going to be flexible towards that. So I think these three are enough. One is to prioritize. But I told you before which you need to have a goal direction, and then accordingly you prioritize. Once you prioritize, what you're going to do is delivering that can happen when you can have a time blocks. These are some hacks. When you have a time blocks, you exactly know this particular time, I need to be doing this. And then accordingly, you can be flexible in your delivery method. Okay. All right. So this next one is financial planning and adaptability. So that is one area very tricky, right? Because usually the financial planning or the discussion itself is very stressful. So whether you're doing it individually or a couple or for your work, so it is best to understand flexibility is important even during planning stages. Okay. Flexible budgeting. You're going to create a budget that can adapt to changing financial circumstances. Just like how I told you, in the previous slide, that you're going to anticipate certain, things like it could be appointment, or it could be some events. It's going to happen. There was a shutdown. There was festival times. So we need to anticipate that and accordingly adjust our schedules. So similarly, in financial also, you need to anticipate that kind of financial circumstances. Okay. Then you're going to have a contingency fund, emergency fund. You're going to maintain savings to handle unexpected expenses or income changes, right? So that fund has to be consistent. You just cannot. Contingency meaning contingency. See, in my community, I have a formula of TWCGO. This is given by my mentor, and I follow certain people when it comes to money quotient, right? Raising my money quotient, especially not just money generation, money management, and money multiplication. So for which you need to have certain discipline. Now, consistently, all these jars, it's called a jar principle and not a typical physical jar, but it's more of an account management. So the moment you put that fund into that, should not be touched until that particular event or something happens. Okay. So that discipline and consistency should happen, not only with the person who's handling it, but also with the person. Suppose you're having this discussion with your spouse, it is important to get that alignment, okay, with your spouse as well. And then have a regular reviews. And now, when we call about regular reviews, it is usually it'll be very stressful when it happens in the family, right? But over at work, it is anyway it's more of a structured discussions. Okay, it's more of a boardroom discussion that it is bound to happen every quarter and annual reviews. Similarly, when you want to do it in the family, you have to have that consistent calendars and it discipline as a habit. Every month, you need to be able to. So it is very hard, right? Even with me and my spouse, we are driving towards this consistency, but sometimes life takes over and we might, have different things coming up. So we might even not have that clarity. But it is a good practice to at least have this 2 months once, 3 months once to make sure that we are going in the right direction. Okay. So periodically assess and adjust financial plans to align with the changes. Only then it will have a matured planning ahead because especially high fast paced and highly dynamic volatile market situations, it is important to have that in place. And for a business entrepreneur with that of family members, family life, it is even more important to have that communication going on with your spouse, with your family, as much as you want to plan for your business, right? So the next one is personal growth and adaptability, right? Even in your personal growth. So now, again, personal growth should be a goal for somebody. It should be a value for someone. If this value is not there, then you're not able to identify the need itself. Maybe, life can teach you in some other way. But I believe the reason why I picked up personal growth is important is um, it is part of life, right? uh, that just like how I said, business and me, my life is not different. It's going to be the same. How I am in the family, it's going to be how I will be in the business. How much can I wear the mask and go through? So it will anyway be showcased, right? Even if you're at work, your mood swings or your tantrums will anyway be seen across, or other people you can reflect on other people's tantrums as well. So on that note, personal growth is also part of life, whether you are at career, business, or any leadership role or full-time mom. It is important that you need to be aware of the part of growth which is happening in you. So how are you going to adapt? One is continuous learning. You're going to figure out some opportunities which can help you embrace new skills to be able to stay relevant for your career and personal life. And it is no more a want, right? It's become a need. You need to be updated, upgraded. Otherwise, you're lost in the game, especially even for a student who's in a mid school and a high school, how competitive they have to be. It is no more a want. It's become a norm now. So it is important to keep ourselves upgraded. So don't think that you're at home taking care of your children, you may not need this. You're anyway growing. Parenting itself is a growth, personal growth. So how are you using adaptability there? You're going to be continuously learning, okay? You're going to be resourceful parent, right, for your child. So what if the child comes and asks, Mama, you could have told me this. So we in our life we decided whatever missed opportunities we had, we're not going to, typically all parents will be that way, right? We want to give an upgraded life for our children. But in order to deliver that, what are the skills that we need? We need to be resourceful. We need to be proactive. We need to be able to aware of a lot of things around us so that we can help better way to our children. So another skill set that you need to have is self reflection. So when something goes wrong, so what are you learning from there? It's just not another situations, and yeah, it's not about how you solve the problem and move on, but it is about the wisdom that you're gaining from there. Very, very important. So you're going to regularly assess that personal goals and progress, adjusting as needed, right? Of course, when you're at work, you're getting a feedback. There is a regular review. But when you're working on your own, or when you're not at home, you're a full-time mom, that is where you think you're not being, progressing, you're not being monitored, you're not being accountable for anybody. That is exactly where we go for a downward spiral. And that is why I suggest that you have a particular goal and work towards it and work with those like-minded people. It could be monetary goal, it could be non-monetary goal, it could simply be for your parenting, it could simply be for your personal, spiritual growth. Whatever it is, just be part of that like-minded community and have a coach, even if it is for fitness or for your spiritual growth or for your emotional intelligence growth or for financial growth. Have that advisor, have that consultant or counselor or a coach for all those domains. Then you will see how naturally you are progressing, right? And then you should have an eye to embrace the challenges as opportunities. So every obstacle, if you can turn it as an opportunity for growth, then naturally you're adaptable. Now, now that you understood the areas of applicability, we also should know where are those hacks. I mean, hacks meaning we're going to see how you can have a shortcut. Okay. So when there is a hack given to you, that means you are either going to use the left brain or right brain on that essence. But sometimes it could be midbrain. Now, when you use this hack, it has to be applied to see whether it's working or not. Okay, this is not a theory one. So far, applicability maybe sounds like, okay, this is something I can apply. But unless you apply and see, it's not going to work. Similarly, the hack. Okay, so let's talk about left, right, and midbrain hack for this episode. Okay. Now, when we talk about adaptability in family or balancing the career and family, the first thing is priorities, right? You have to have the priorities in place. First of all, you need to have a goal. You need to have some destination. When you open your GPS, right, it won't work provided you give some destination. If that is the case for even Google Maps, what about your life? That's how we can, that's called self-direction. So you don't need to have a fancy goal and all that. You just have to know next 1 year or next 3 months to 6 months, where do you want to travel? Maybe in your own role of a full-time mom, how do you want to, maybe plan a vacation, or where do you want your child to see in their academic growth? Or how do you want to save some amount, and where do you want to see the savings increasing? Or if it's going to be a relocation or some adversity is coming in, how do you want to plan for it, right? So that is how you have a direction. In that case, you're going to set your priorities. So you're going to identify the key areas towards having this adaptability, right? Maybe you see let's say, a relocation happening, or some adversity is happening, some event is, you can anticipate. Maybe you have aged parents, or it could be some demand for your family. Maybe you have a teenager who's graduating. So you can anticipate there's going to be a savings that you need to open up for college graduation, fees. So on that note, you're going to prioritize your task. But if you don't identify the key areas, only then you can identify your priorities accordingly, you can adjust. So when you know there has to be some extra savings that you need to gain in next 6 months time, or 6 months, when your child is going to get graduated or getting into college admission. So 1 year down the lane, you still have 1 year time within which you want to prioritize your task. Maybe right now you're not in job, so you will quickly look after some job or apply something, so that in the next 10 to 12 months you are engaged in a work which gives you some additional income. Or you may want to create some digital products and then sell it from home. You don't have to necessarily travel. So that way you can monetize your knowledge, time, and effort. So how does it all going to come? Only when you can have a goal, and then accordingly you're prioritizing. So you're going to identify the key areas to actually needed for your career and family life. And then you're going to rank those priorities. Okay. You're going to order that. You give your rank, like 5 being the highest and 1 being the lowest, and then accordingly to that. And then allocate resources accordingly. Distribute the time and energy according to your prioritized list. If you do this, it is more or less that you are able to align with top 3 of the things that you need to do. So it could be an alignment towards importance or urgent. So there's a time matrix that you can pick it up. So it's going to help you with the important, urgent works and not so important, not so urgent work, or a combination of that. So you will figure out what is important for you to action on. Okay. So that's your purely your logical derivation. So that's your logical brain. And then emotional intelligence and adaptability. I'm calling this as emotional intelligence itself in adaptability because it's going to cover most of the things. Of course, it starts with self-awareness. You need to be able to recognize your emotional responses towards any particular change that you want to take. In the previous episode, we in the previous slide, we saw how to prioritize. Okay. Now, when you say, okay, now I have to buckle up and do something so that I get some extra income, you may have to say no for your friends' parties or something like that. Okay. Do you have that emotional acceptance in you? Will you be able to allow it? When you prioritize the importance and urgency, naturally you'll be able to accept it. So, but you need to be aware of it, right? Only then you will know which one is important. Okay. Then comes empathy. You need to be able to give that understanding and consideration for the feelings of family members, colleagues during that transitions as well. Now, not just your colleagues. I told you in the beginning, and every episode I say this: emotional intelligence always have two, directions, two components, self and others. So it is not only for others. Empathy is not only for others. Empathy is also for us. So similarly, setting priorities is not only for them, it is for us. So every component, self and others. Okay. If you approach this way, it's going to be balanced. Especially when you're talking about brain, it is always balance and harmony. So you need to be able to understand the impact. Suppose you say, from you see something happens with your child, there's some downgrade of low marks or something, and you immediately want to fix some disciplinary action towards that. So when you want to have that transition communicated to your child, it is also important that understand the emotional impact of it, right? And also make sure that it is an open communication and consistently followed. So this can happen only when you are able to understand the other members. And it is important for them to also understand you. So we need to be responsible to teach them what is empathy. In case you have children, it is important as a parent, we need to be able to teach them what is empathy. It doesn't matter whether they are 60-year or 10-year or a teenager or a young adult. It is important to inculcate these skills set at home. And so you will be able to look after other people as well. And then emotional regulation. You're going to manage your emotions effectively to maintain that balance and productivity. Okay. Then comes developing flexible routines. Now, after you get this done, then you can creatively create some flexible routines, which is okay for you and also for others. Somewhere you have to let it go, and somewhere there has to be an adjustment. So assessing what is the current routines is important. Suppose the current routines is working, you shouldn't touch that. Just because you are creative and just because you are adaptable, you cannot be over resilient and saying touching something that is working. But if you see a growth component in it, maybe you want to change it. Okay. Then you're going to identify the flex points. That is, determine the areas where flexibility can be introduced without disrupting the essential tasks. That is where I'm saying, again, this is a component of logic and the emotional brain. I'll tell you how. There is a need for adjustment, and then you're going to identify the flexible points. You don't have to entirely disrupt that whole thing. You just have to pick up that point as where you can adjust something. Maybe you can adjust some finance on top of that, or you can adjust some schedules, or you can adjust some understanding towards that. Maybe if you're dealing with your children and there is a process of, you've said no to TV or any gadgets during the weekdays, maybe you can give in some time. Maybe on Friday, you can tell them, okay, now that you've finished your schooling, you can continue on Friday itself. Sometimes you need to be flexible. Or maybe if it's a holiday, you might want to say yes to it. Then accordingly, you're going to implement and adjust. Okay, gradually you're going to introduce the flexible elements, based on effectiveness. You should also see whether it's working or not. That is why regular reviews. Then comes practicing resilience. That is your right brain. Okay. Now we have done good amount of, in fact, we started the series with resilience itself. I would highly recommend you to go and watch those episodes. Wonderful. Okay. I covered logical, emotional resilience, resilience for parent, entrepreneur, leadership. So many things we have covered in resilience as a episode, power packed. So you're going to build that mental toughness. Okay. Develop that mindset that views challenges as opportunities and growth. And then emotional support. Again, because it is important that you cannot ignore the emotional component in you or others. Whenever there is a change, that is where you need adaptability in place. You need to be also resilient towards that change. You need to know that you're working, short-term pain for a long-term gain. You need to know that you can always bounce back whenever there is a failure, because this is only an obstacle. You need to know that it is not always pervasive. It is a setback, temporary setback, right? You need to build that patience to have it worked out. I mean, it's just a new thing. It's new for you, new for the people who is in transition. You need to give that, faith and time and patience. Then you also need to give them an emotional support. You need to have a check-in. How are they feeling? When you're working, especially as a manager or a leader, apart from you giving them an infrastructure or goals or promotion or recognition, it is important to have that personal check-in. That is where leaders are hailing the successful leaders. Their secret sauce is this when it comes to people handling. Okay. So cultivate that strong relationship for supporting during difficult times, having that check-in. I've done good amount of episodes on empathy and emotional insight, emotional agility. That'll also give you some strategies how to extend that support, especially when you're a parent. When you're trying to strike a balance, I think emotional understanding or, emotional support is very, very needed. It is needed for your own self. You need to be able to self-acknowledge, self-appreciate, create that self-love component, as well as be able to communicate clearly what are your needs and asks and wants. Only then you can, get support from them. Okay. But it is important to have that emotional support rendered to yourself and you rendering to others. Then you're going to recover and learn. Okay. Uh, when there is an adversity, it is tough for somebody to handle. Even if it's an anticipated adversities, right? Forget about the ones which is emergency or something which you have not thought through. That could be even more severe. But for you to bounce back from those setbacks, it is important to reflect on that lessons learned. That's where the wisdom lies, so that you don't repeat the same thing. Second thing is, take care of your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual needs for you to be emotionally resilient. Now, in my community, in the previous episodes, I've shared something called Mojo Fitness. It's a 21 days program. It's available for free of cost for somebody who could, I'll tell you how you can gain those 100% free coupon if you stay till this end. In just in few minutes, we're going to end this episode. So if you have the free coupon code, you can jump in, and it's going to be 21 days challenge, and you will see how people are transpiring from their the procrastination stage to how they are able to be productive, as well as from their adversities, how have they traveled through and becoming more resilient. Okay. It is important for a mom, especially busy mom. You may ask, I'm busy, how can I do this 21-day challenge? It is counterintuitive. When you are able to do this, you'll be able to inculcate these habits. So which is what is going to help you become productive, engaged, not being busy. Okay. So there'll be a link given in the descriptions. Go through that. And if you're interested, the program happens every month. So register for that. And then comes staying organized. Okay. Digital tools, physical organization, and physical review is very, very important. You're going to use digital technology. I use a lot of tools which helps me, what do you call, time management, as well as time saving. Conservation of energy is also important. So that way I use digital tools, and I'm pretty flexible. Initially, those were the days few years back, I was not ready to transition to touchscreen at all. But somehow, it so happened that I happened to come here to US, and then my husband gifted me an iPhone. That is the time I even, you know, understood that touchscreen is not that harmful, that it's not that terrorizing. But after that, I I fell in love with that ecosystem that Apple has made me fall in love with, because I'm a big fan of Apple, and then the products that made my transaction very, very easy. I also depend on a lot of gadgets for kitchen, which makes my job automated and easier. So that way I use digital tools and gadgets. And then physical organization is also important. Maintaining tidy workspace. Time and again, it's okay. You don't have to clean every day, but you need to have the time block and make sure that it is consistently taken care. And regular review is also important. Periodically assess and update. Declutter. Periodically declutter your caches, mental caches, and your digital caches is very, very important. Okay. Now it's an interesting part where we will talk about case study of a particular, personality, and my favorite personality, Indra Nui. Now, why Indra Nui? Okay. So, what is so special for her? I mean, you all know, she's right now 69 years, but when she was like she headed PepsiCo, which is the largest food and beverage company. That time, she was not only the CEO of that, the chairman of that particular corporate, which is a high stake profession. Not only that, she moved from India to US for education, and then she became part of this company. She churned in the entire culture into a very purposeful performance and purposeful driven culture. And she was leading. She was most of the time, not only she led that company successful, but she was also a women influencer for a long time because of her results and her initiatives that she had done. So about her in terms of motherhood and balancing work, family, and why Indra Nui is that there was one point of time where I had a small toddler, and I happened to have a lot of sleepless nights. And then I also had ventured into online digital entrepreneurships. And over here, sitting here all alone with not much of a support in terms of outsourcing and all that. So it was just loading my brain, and I was just losing my control. And then I happened to watch this YouTube video when she spoke about that you're not crazy, you're human, because just because you're handling three full-time jobs, like being a full-time mom, being a career person, being having your own dreams, business dreams, aspirations. You're not crazy, you're human. I mean, that just went in deep in me. And I was thinking, okay, I'm not alone. And that's exactly she said, you're not alone. A lot of people have that, and I've been through it. And then when she spoke about her story, I really could understand, even being a successful woman, there is a back end story for everybody. And what she said was, you're going to prioritize yourself, make time for yourself. And then she redefined that making time yourself. That was intriguing. So she only said, consider the time spent with your family as me time itself. So I was thinking, okay, I have to create a separate me time. Okay. That was the school of thought. But then I could understand, unfortunately, we all have 24 hours time only. In that particular timing, we are actually we are spending time with our family. So that can also be considered as a me time, because that's one of my values. So that is why I ask you to, have that values in place. In my community, the very first thing, when you step into my community, the very first exercise that we do with my students, members, is to have the core value identified. And then we will have the brain style opened. That's just a one page report. We're going to have the alignment with core values and with that of your brain scales. So we will identify the missing elements and the strength in you. Accordingly, we are going to derive your goals. Now you see how solid it will be, the goals, and no one can stop you. So you will exactly know what you need to do, and it is coming from your core values. So that's how it is. And then she also said, pick your battles. So that seemed to be very, very logical, and emotionally I accepted that fact, because I just cannot be there everywhere and for every time and everybody. And I have to really conserve my energy to see, whom I'm even, arguing or something. So is it really serving my goal? Am I really be, valued there? So she spoke very realistic, and she was an advocate for change by herself. So that is why I thought I'll just use her case study. And it is intriguing to understand how, as a top successful woman, and every time when she comes for a interview to the journalist, and I see her husband sitting in the, in the first few rows, and I really see that not just a career woman, successful woman out there, it's also a doting wife, and a person who has undergone the motherhood and the difficulties of it. So her brain styles is like, her top brain talents are strategic planning. Okay. Nui carefully planned her work schedule to manage corporate and family responsibilities. and she always insisted performance and purpose driven initiatives. So the purpose actually consists of all domains of life. It is not only for the, in fact, her initiatives in PepsiCo also cared a lot about their employees, because she, being a woman and a mother herself, she brought about a lot of initiatives to take care of her women employees, as well as the family, employee-centric decisions. Also shows that, purposefully driven initiatives and emotionally intelligent. So unless she's able to induce that empathy component to connect with family, her own family, she cannot be peaceful at work, right? She needs to have that understanding, balancing going on with their family needs and everything, ensuring that support is given to her during busy times. And it is the same thing that she even empathized with her, employees, workforce. And then resilience. Nui adopted pressures, to pressures to of leading PepsiCo while managing family life during the crisis times of PepsiCo, when she has to lead that largest beverages, and she's the forerunner of it, and as well as also take care of her family life, is something, right? So all credits, and what is the learning from her is something that I was intrigued to understand. How can I adapt it, right? So, a couple of things that we can adapt in certain areas, picking up these hints from these successful people like this, is especially when you are working remote work. Okay, these are not something which is being told by anybody, because before pandemic it was entirely different. Now after pandemic, we are also evolving. We are also trying to catch up with what is needed. There are a couple of things that you can remember. Okay, setting up home office is very, very important. Have that created dedicated workspace. I do have a studio created. It's a very small space, having all that gadgets, lights, and all over the places. Now this place will not be disturbed, and it'll be like this is my space. And whenever there is a change is going to happen, I'm going to be adapting and making sure that it's not being taken over. So that is one thing. Second thing is, you need to also understand that it is an expectation from the worldwide, right? It is not just your company. It's become a worldwide norm that most of the corporates have become hybrid. Okay, so that is also important to take care, and establishing the boundaries. So clearly separating work time from personal time to maintain balance. um, One is during the, everybody has haven't had an understanding. Even the education went on online. Very critical business decisions got done on Zoom during the pandemic. So it was full of chaos, and it was full of noise and all that. But after pandemic is gone, people have come to hybrid, to an understanding that it is important to give that space and time for somebody from working from home. But with an individual, it is important to maintain that discipline and consistency. Okay, even though it is a good thing that we don't have to travel, we don't have to leave our babies in the daycare. While we want to have that kind of an advantage, but it is also important to have that discipline in place. Trust me, being a digital entrepreneur is even more tougher than being a normal corporate person. If only there is no travel, if only there is something can be taken care for our babies, and the family chores and all that. Otherwise, it demands more of a discipline. Of course, it has its own flexibility. I can work anytime I choose to. I can work anywhere I want to. But it comes with a lot of other things that we have to fall into discipline. Then staying connected is also important, because you could be using technology to maintain that strong connections with colleagues. It derives it what do you call it, leaves us with that physical touch which is unparalleled. But we just have to adapt. Okay, that is where the adaptability comes. And then adapting to parenting changes, adjust your communication according to your child's needs, ages, right? As they grow, they might need a different approach, right? It is evident when you see a toddler turning to a preteen, and then preteen to teenager, and then teenager to an adult. Huge difference, biologically, mentally, physically, emotionally, huge. And I remember my mom saying this, and my elders have, we always seek advice. I mean, because we know that parenting is always evolving. Nobody is perfect in parenting, and we respect people's experiences. So on that note, you got to adjust your communication. And if you're stubborn, if you're strict, that, you're like this way, it's only going to be a resistance from all over, and it's going to be chaotic. So little bit of letting go is also important. Then flexible discipline is important. You having no discipline is even more worse. You need to have a discipline, but then there has to be a flexibility in it. Okay, adapt that flexible strategies to suit different ages and solutions, and evolving support. You need to have that constant support provided, and there has to be a consistent language, because if the child is spoken or approached differently from different parent or different people in the family, it's going to be, the child will not know what to expect. So it is important to have that consistent language with everybody, understanding with everybody, open communication, and support from everybody. Okay. So you're going to have providing appropriate support as children becoming more important, and it has to be a family effort. Then financial changes, income fluctuations, you need to be aware of where, if you are a career transition, you will have a uh, increase in cash flow, or sometimes you need to take a dip. So you need to accordingly develop that strategies, expenses adjustment. You need to be able to have the track of expenses, current expenses with that of inflation, taking care of it, especially when you have a transition like relocation or career job, changes. So you need to know all that. Regular review and regular tracking is important, and long-term planning. All these things will lead you to a long-term planning. Then when you talk about health also is very, very important. You need to be flexible in your fitness regime also. You just cannot go with saying that, this worked for your friend, so you're going to work on it. No, it might not work. Your body is different from other person. And similarly with your family, if you're particularly particular about any particular diet, please don't have it, because each member will have their own, body rhythm is different. Accordingly, you'll have to prepare a diet. I know it's tough, right? So that is why we need to have a holistic approach. So that way we are flexible and we are taking care of, we need not be perfect, at least we need to be appropriate, for which we need to be able to adjust and let go. So first of all, awareness, what kind of need is there. So that you need to assess. Accordingly, you're going to adjust your either exercise routines based on your family schedules. You may have a toddler, you may not have much time, but you don't have to, again, get over all that. I mean, you don't have to get rid of all that. So you can manage that based on your flexible timings. So you might want to do some exercises when the child is sleeping. We are very good at adjusting our schedules, but we are not valuing what we need. So fitness is very, very important. You cannot, what do you call, compromise on it. You cannot just like that be flexible. That is called over flexibility. Saying putting all other people's priorities and putting yours in the least priority. That is the first thing that we saw. That should be the first hack. Setting priorities is important. Priorities means self and others. That is where you're going to have a balance. And then stress management. You're going to develop adaptable stress relief techniques to various situations. Sometimes we just cannot go full on with, learning from different masters and go for a retreat and then get ourselves de-stress and all that. We need to be able to identify, be creatively, identify what we can de-stress at home, right? If you're stay at home where you're handling toddler, then it is important to maybe take a walk and then maybe listen to music or do a Zumba online, right? And then nutrition adaptation also. So it is very critical when the child is growing. That is where you need to be adaptable, both for yourself, for the child, and for the family. So there's a lot of things. Adaptability happens very naturally for a mother, but we need to make sure that we are not overdoing on it. Okay. Then comes technology, which just spoke good enough time on that, but then balancing screen time is also important. Managing technology used to maintain work-life balance is important, and family connections is even more important. That is where we need to have a we need to be embracing the technology as well. Now, we've done good amount of research and case study. At this point of time, if you have questions like you do have, right? How do I, how am I able to adjust work schedule to balance the responsibility? How do I do that? Or are you continuously learning? Can you identify yourself, assess that way, that you're learning and adapting? Do you find yourself open to changes, right? Or how easily do you adapt to changing family dynamics and personalities? Can you modify home routines to accommodate unexpected changes creatively? And how well do you maintain balance between your career and family life? Or it could be many invoking questions that you might have. Okay. I have a tool for you to answer all this. I've got a self-assessment questionnaire, which will ask you about 10 to 20 questions, good questions, okay? Which is good enough for you to assess whether you are already there or not. Suppose you're not there, there'll be tips given to each questions. You can fill in the gaps. You can always have an area of improvement. Apart from watching these episodes, I'm also giving that tool for all the episodes. Imagine for all 100 skills that you're going to be learning in this 100 episodes, you will find a questionnaire, self-assessment questionnaire coming to you. It will not be even disclosed to me. It will be only to you through a Google form. It'll all be bundled as a EQ quiz bundles. Okay. So I'm going to be offering that to you. And that will be given to you as a special offer. In fact, when I put this 100 quizzes as a bundle out there, it's going to take logistics, time, and effort. So there has to be a cost for it. So when it is out there for public, it will be out there for a cost. And especially after I complete the 100 days, it will be not be available for free of cost. So all you're going to do is make use of that. Register in the given link in the description. Register that whenever it's going to be available, it's going to be available to you for lifetime. Okay. But if you want a free of cost coupon, I'm going to share with you. I'm so happy to give you that 100% free coupon code because I want to give it to you as a gift. But what I want to know is how far have you able to understand about emotional intelligence, brain skills? From each episode, if you can, give me top three insights. For example, if you're watching this episode, give me your top three insights. What have you learned? So that way I know exactly how much have you been inspired, and that will be an inspiration for me. So on that note, I will give you a shout out and ask you for your email ID. And in your email ID, you will find this 100% free coupon code. So you can access that 100 quiz bundles free of cost at any point of time. Okay. Then there is an invite for women specifically to come into a EQ brain skills workshop. That's where we're going to talk about the brain styles. So far, I've been only telling logic brain, right brain, left brain, and all that. I will be showing you a report of your unique brain styles in that workshop. Okay. It's a sample report, but I will tell you how you can derive your brain styles. So that will happen. The link is given in the description, registered there. And of course, there are a lot of other social media resources available for you to make use of it. This is open out there for anybody to use it. So because emotional intelligence is needed for any age group, and as I said, it is not just a skill set, right? It is more of a life skill because change is a constant thing. Change is the only thing for anybody. Okay, even for a school kid, there's a lot of transition happening, right? From elementary to mid school to high school to teenager. Life keeps going and constant change is only constant. But how are you going to respond to those is what is going to define a particular journey, an individual's journey. So by mastering this power of adaptability, you being flexible, you can create that kind of a destiny that you wanted. Okay. So if this episode inspired you and resonates with you, give me a like button, love button, press that love button. I will know your support. And also share your comments below. That will inspire me to take it forward. And there are a lot of other series pending. I would highly recommend you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, subscribe to my Spotify, subscribe to Instagram, LinkedIn, and a Substack platform where I'm going to be giving you a lot of free resources for you to access on it. Right. So in essence, don't miss the next future episodes, so that once we complete the 100 episodes, you don't have to, it's more of a crash course for you in this 100 days. You need not have spent a lot of money just like how I spent. You need not be a certified EQ person. You will still be an emotionally intelligent person right there from the comfort of your home by just watching these episodes. Okay. So adapt to change, balance your life, and thrive in every role that you are into. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.